Can you please review QK65 Mark III? Yes I can. Here I have with me today QK65 Mark III. A little rewind back in time to 2022, Cody Keys dropped their first ever product, and that was the QK65. During that time, all you could see on YouTube was the QK65, and at the time in 2022, our channel was still pretty small, so I didn't really get a chance to review it or get my hands on one. But when 2025, I'm not saying I'm huge, I'm not saying I'm a big channel, but I'm really thankful for the opportunity to be able to review keyboards like week in, week out, every single year. Actually, 84.8% of you are not subscribed and you're watching the videos. So subscribe. Anyway, let's get started with the unboxing. As usual, QK's packaging is honestly one of the better ones. It comes in a neat shipping box and it always has some pretty cool designs. Now, starting with our first box of accessories, we have a wireless receiver, some ribbon cables, and our bean mounts with extra rubber feet. And then we have a separate box which has the standard set of tools like our keycap puller, switch puller, screwdriver, and our USB-C cable. Everything else comes in our carrying case. Very neatly packed, we have a set of clip-in stabilizers, aluminum plate without any flex cuts, FR4 plate with flex cuts, the standard foam kit, and a 5-pin hot swappable PCB. And of course, we have our QK65 Mark III. And my first impression, I was honestly pleasantly surprised by the design itself. They have 5 different color options: Eclipse Grey, Retro White, Pink, Green, and Basalt Grey. So this time around, we have the main theme going around retro gaming consoles. It actually really reminds me of the Space 65. I feel like it's because of the rounded corners, and it's done really tastefully. Most of the time when we see rounded corners, everyone's afraid that it looks like a toy, but it comes out looking really neat. On top of that, we have this two-tone looking for it going from the top. Focus. Hello. And from the sides, it's actually 3 tones. We have small little designs on the back as well, which kind of add to that retro gaming design vibe. With my keycap set that I'm using, it matches perfectly. On the bottom, we have a PVD weight with a badge. They're calling it a cyber dog. Overall, the whole design theme that they went for and every single thing they did to achieve that design is pretty nice. I'll give it a solid 7.5 out of 10. But what good is a keyboard if it just looks good and doesn't sound good? So let's actually test building in this. So as I mentioned in the unboxing, I have 2 different plates. So let's do 2 different builds as per usual, a Thocky build and a Clacky build. Before we continue, the PCB itself is pretty standard. It's a 5-pin hot swappable PCB with no flex cuts. They have configurations for both ISO and 7U, and for plates, they also do have plates that support plate mounted stabilizers, so it's easier for you to tune if you're not used to it. Alright, let's start building on build 1. This will be more focused on a foamed up build. We'll be using the FR4 plate and plate foam for our PCB sandwich. The switches today we'll be using are the Bsun Strawberries. These are a 5-pin linear switch and they lean towards a creamier sound profile. And a small little heads up, the FR4 plate is quite a hassle to build in because of the individual flex cuts on the plate itself. So I would recommend installing some switches on the plate itself first. The plate foam itself couldn't hold the flex cut from bending too much. Moving on to the bottom housing, we'll be using both the case and PCB foam. So the only foam I won't be using in this current sound test is the PE foam. For mounting itself, we only have one mount, which is the silicone bean mount. It's the pretty standard one. It gives off a nice soft typing experience. But now comes a really interesting choice that they made, and I have no idea why they did this. We have seen the magnetic daughterboard connections on a lot of their keyboards, but this doesn't have it. And on top of that, the connection from the daughterboard to the PCB uses these ribbon cables that have to slot through the PCB and be plugged in from the top. And on top of that, you have to plug in a separate ribbon cable from the PCB to our top frame to connect to the screen. Not very beginner friendly, I would say. To finish off the build, I'll be using PBD Fan's Crosshair. It's one of my favorite keycap sets, and honestly, it matches the board perfectly. Especially with the red, it looks so damn good. So here's how it sounds. I would say for a fully foamed up build without the PE foam, it sounds decently balanced. It's not going too deep or too creamy. So what I can tell from this one typing test is that if you aren't using your PE foam, the set of switches that you're using will really affect how your keyboard sounds. Now for build number 2, this is for the Clacky enjoyers. Similarly, I will still be using the plate foam, and this time around we'll be using the aluminum plate. For switches, the KeyGeek Saras. It's one of the clackiest switches I have and one of my favorite switches to type on. The aluminum plate has no flex cuts whatsoever, so the build process was really easy. Now onto the bottom housing, I decided to use the case foam. We do have an acoustic chamber which actually helps with builds like this, so you can basically run a completely foamless build as well. Now before I show off build number 2, I did do a couple more configurations, completely foamless, with more case foam, with more PCB foam, with the aluminum plate. So if you're interested to hear those more extreme configurations, I'll have them at the end of the video. So here's how build number 2 sounds. Build number 2 sounded really good. The best way to describe it is that it's not a really sharp, loud clack. It's more of a softer clack that comes off really nice. It comes off really smooth, I say. Next, we're gonna talk a little bit more about the screen itself. Yes, I completely failed to mention it at the beginning of the video. The keyboard actually has a screen and a matrix LED. This screen is the most advanced version of a screen we have seen from Kodi Keys. Aside from the usual stuff like displaying information like time, the generic caps lock kind of thing, for custom animation, we have separated foregrounds and backgrounds. You can basically have a foreground, which is your car, and you can have a background which is daytime kind of clouds, and you can swap between them with a click of a button. And for the second upgrade or improvement, they actually added a mini game into the screen itself. It's basically this typing challenge where you basically type out words and you set a high score. It's honestly really cute. If you got a triple mode version of the keyboard, you can basically do typing challenges with the keyboard itself. And on the topic of cute, they also have a cat/dog kind of theme that mirrors your keystrokes in real time. So yeah, QK65 Mark III, the prices start from $199. In my opinion, it's a pretty well-rounded keyboard, a 65%. It has a screen, it has the matrix LED, the acoustics itself is honestly really well done. If you like extreme sounding boards, listen to the ending configurations with the PE foam. It comes out really creamy, really Thocky. The clack version is also nice as well, but I am a little biased towards a deeper sound profile. And in terms of aesthetics, although it is a retro gaming console kind of vibe, there is still a lot of modern to it, which I really prefer, and the basalt grey, it's a really nice color. So if you're interested in the QK65 Mark III, I'll have it linked in the description down below. Subscribe, I haven't aimed for a goal in so long, 200k maybe. Aside from that, like the video if you enjoyed this video. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace!